All right, everybody. Last round of my mock draft, round number 4, and we've already kind of gotten so deep into the weeds that there's very, very little chance that any of my guesses are going to be accurate at this point. We've probably gone well off the rails by this point in the draft. We always do, but that doesn't mean we can't have fun. Let's have fun, guys. That's what this is all about. So, without further ado, round number 4 of the 2021 NFL Draft as I see it. So, we got the Jacksonville Jaguars selecting first in round number 4. I think this is a pretty good spot for Michael Carter to come off the board from North Carolina. They need a little running back help over there. Why not just keep filling? Trevor Lawrence's offense up with more and more talent? All right, now we have the New York Jets. It's their turn. They need a lot of different stuff on that team, but let's keep giving them more offensive help. Let's give them another running back, Kenneth Gainwell from Memphis. All right, Atlanta Falcons. What might they do? Unfortunately, interior defensive line is like the one area on their defense that they're pretty set at, so this board is not particularly jiving with their exact needs. However, they can get another edge player in the form of Victor Dimukeje from Duke, so let's go with that. Houston Texans, their second pick in this entire friggin' draft, because that's what happens when you don't know what you're doing as a front office. Let's go with Tyler Shelvin from LSU. All right, now we've got the Cleveland Browns. What might they do with their first fourth rounder? What could they need? What do they need in order to continue to get better as a team? Well, they could. I don't think they need another edge player, so let's go with Demetric Felton, a very interesting and unique player. He's a great complement out of the backfield for Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, but mostly he's going to be a very dynamic wide receiver threat. I like Demetric Felton. I wish he was a little bigger, or else I'd be more interested in the Seahawks taking him. But I'm going to say he goes there. Okay, so now we've got ourselves the Cincinnati Bengals. They lost Geno Atkins, not that he was there for them last year, so let's say they get an interior defensive lineman here. One of these two. Let's go with Alim McNeil. Why not? All right, now we're back on the Detroit Lions. And unfortunately for them, I don't see a QB on the board right now that makes sense for them to take. So let's go with Jalen Twyman from Pittsburgh. Sure. All right, Carolina Panthers. Their draft has already kind of gone off the deep end here because they traded for Sam Darnold a few weeks ago, which I didn't know when I did the first round of my mocks. So, yeah, but Trill Williams should be really good, and I think he fits here. So Trill Williams to the Panthers. Now we're looking at the Denver Broncos. What might they do with their 114th pick? They need to start thinking about replacing Von Miller eventually, so maybe they address the edge with Hamilcar Rashed Jr. or Cameron Sample, Dio Odebengo. It kind of just depends on who they like. I'll go with Rashed Jr. from Oregon State, Pac-12 boy. Now we're back on the Dallas Cowboys, and they have an opportunity to continue to improve on their offensive line and get a little younger there because they're so old there. Let's go with Aaron Banks. All right, now time for the New York Giants. What might they do with their fourth round pick? Let's go with one of my favorites and somebody I would really like the Seahawks to look at if he falls to their fourth round pick, Israel Mukuamu. So that helps them at cornerback. Now we're back on the San Francisco 49ers. Andre Cisco makes a lot of sense to me, more sense than anything else we can do here. Let's go with it. Andre Cisco. Now we're back on the LA Chargers. They could still use more help on the edge because I think they're going to lose Melvin Ingram. So let's go with Cameron Sample. Back on the Minnesota Vikings. Shatarius Atwell's an interesting prospect to take a look at here. The Vikings do need a third wide receiver, and they don't really have anybody on the roster right now because I'm pretty sure they're done with Laquella Treadwell. I don't even know if he was on the team last year now that I think about it. Back on the New England Patriots. What could they use here? They could definitely use some receiver help. I know they addressed some of that in free agency, but maybe they try their hand at a second Arizona State wide receiver and get Frank Darby. Maybe they go for a Seth Williams. There are a lot of, I mean, I've done a lot of work looking at the receivers in this draft, and while a lot of the best ones are now clearly gone, I'm going to go with Frank Darby. Why not? The Las Vegas Raiders up next. They have needs on defense still, so I'm going to give them Dio Odebengo. Back on the Patriots, who get another selection right after the first one. So what could they use now? Maybe they need a new running back because I'm pretty sure they're Rex Burkhead is a free agent. So let's give them Ramondre from Oklahoma. And now we've got ourselves the Philly Eagles up once again. Could they take a tight end to replace Zach Ertz, who they're desperately trying to move on from? Kenny Yeboah's the guy that I like in this range, more or less. He's a tight end who I think is probably a little underrated on TDN's board, so let's go ahead and go with it for now. Now we're back on the Washington football team. What can they do with their pick? And let's go with Derek Barnes because I haven't had them address linebacker yet, which is a need for them. All right, now we've got the Minnesota Vikings again, and I'm going to give them another piece of interior offensive line help because it's important to them that they address this. Kendrick Green, very interesting prospect. Some sites really like him, some sites really don't. I'm going to go with that. Tennessee Titans are up next, and I'm going to go ahead and give them Deontay Smith. They need a little help on that offensive line. Let's go with it. Indianapolis Colts. Let's take a look here. What could they use? I know they need a receiver. I don't know if that receiver that they're looking for is at this spot in the draft, unfortunately for them. So since I've done a lot of work looking at receivers, who do I like here? I'm going to say it's time for Daz Newsome to come off the board. That puts us on the Pittsburgh Steelers, who could use a few different things. Let's take a look. What makes sense for their current slate of needs? Again, they already addressed edge, but that doesn't mean they couldn't take the hometown Patrick Jones II to help bolster their pass rush even more. Let's go with that. And that gets us to Seattle. And I am going to go ahead and make a big reach according to TDN, but not according to me. And I'm going to get my favorite receiver in this area of the draft, Ihmir Smith-Marsette from Iowa. And that will get us back to Jacksonville. And I'm going to go ahead and send them Marvin Wilson from Florida State, who I actually scouted Marvin Wilson in a little bit, and I like him quite a bit. So I'm very intrigued to see what he might be able to do in the NFL, especially if he stays in Florida. Kind of cool. All right, now we're on the Baltimore Ravens. They need offensive line help. Let's give them Robert Hainsey from Notre Dame. Those Notre Dame offensive linemen tend to be pretty good out of the box, so that's appealing for them. Cleveland Browns are up next. What might they decide to seek out? Let's go with Jacoby Stevens from LSU. That's a nice little defensive factory they've got over there at LSU. Why not capitalize? Okay, New Orleans Saints. Let's give them a safety as well. Talanola Hufanga would be a good pick, I think. So I'm going to go with that. Minnesota Vikings come back around again. They have a lot of picks in this area of the draft. They've done well to get themselves a lot of selections around here. They've already taken 2 interior offensive linemen. They could take let's see here. What makes sense for them? Could they take more exterior offensive line help like Storm Forsythe? He's an intriguing prospect in this area. Yeah, why not? Why not just go ahead and give it to him? Stone Forsythe from Florida. All right, now we're on the Green Bay Packers. I think they could use a little more interior offensive line help, honestly, so I'm going to give them David Moore from Grambling, a guy that I actually like quite a bit. Now we are on the Kansas City Chiefs. They could still use a little help on the offensive line, but I don't know if this is a good spot for it or not. As you can see, you'd have to go down to Walker Little from Stanford, who I do like, and it wouldn't be out of bounds to select him here. But that I feel like we could maybe do a little bit better if we looked around a little bit here. Maybe this is a pretty good spot for somebody like Chuba Hubbard to go since we're down in the 4th round. Maybe this is where they get another receiver, like, say, Seth Williams. Maybe they get help at cornerback here. Let's go with Dylan Moses from Alabama. When in doubt, go get an Alabama defensive player, right? All right, now we're back on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. What could they use at this point in the draft? How about another running back? Because they have 2 guys they like, and one of them only really was good in the playoffs. So Kylan Hill from Mississippi State, sure, why not? Dallas Cowboys come back around. What could they use? Again, they're losing some of their pass rush, so let's get Adetokunbo from Notre Dame, good edge player. Let's do it. Punch it in. All right, New England Patriots back on the clock. And I don't know if they're going to lose DK Metcalf's son, whose name escapes me. But if they do, they are going to need a little bit of help in the secondary. So let's give them Trey Brown from Oklahoma. That gets us back to Pittsburgh. And they still need offensive line help. Again, a lot of the good offensive linemen are already off the board, but let's give them Walker Little, and that gets us to the Rams. They could use a little bit of help on the edge. Let's give them Dalen Haynes, although re-signing Leonard Floyd helps limit their needs at edge a little bit. I still think they could use one more, so I'm going to do that. Green Bay is now on the clock. Let's give them Osa Odueghuza from UCLA, a guy I actually scouted a little bit when I was looking at interior linemen. And now we have the Minnesota Vikings. Let's give them Rodarius Williams from Oklahoma State. And now we are on the Kansas City Chiefs, making the final selection in the 4th round. So they got to make it count. And let's make it count by giving them Darius Stills of West Virginia. All right. So that is the end of my mock draft. That is every single pick. All 100 and what was it, 140 something. So you are probably going to disagree with a lot of it. I know Trey Lance is kind of out of the question for Carolina now that they've traded for Darnold, but I didn't know that when I made that pick. So that upsets things a little bit. But if you go through here, I think a lot of the early stuff makes a lot of sense. I think that a lot of the later stuff might start to slip a little bit, but I don't follow all 32 teams in the NFL religiously. There are obviously going to be trades in this draft. I think Atlanta might trade down from number 4. I think you might see the Eagles trade up to secure one of the top receivers. I think you could see the Patriots trade around in order to get a top QB, but I'm not really going to dive into that rabbit hole right now. So what I'm going to say is this. That is the 2021 mock draft. That's as far as I'm going to go this time. I like what the Seahawks did in this mock draft. I will say that if they can get one of those 2 players, I would be pretty damn happy. And I think a lot of teams in this mock draft that I did would be pretty happy. So let's just scroll through everything again so you can get one more look. But if you missed any of the picks, if you missed any of the rounds, just go back and watch the old videos. They're all still uploaded. And the draft is almost here, guys. So we'll know how close to right I was on some of this stuff in a few days. And I want to thank everybody for watching me do my mock draft stuff. And I want to thank everybody for participating, and I hope you at least learned something, even if you think I might be wrong or I might be very, very, very off in some of my evaluations. So I'm out of here. Peace out. Go Hawks. Let's see what happens on Thursday. Yeah, it starts Thursday, right? I think. All right. See you guys later.